You ready to do this, Matt?
I am ready. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thanks for joining us. This is episode 141. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button, and you can get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, another week. Welcome back to the Fortress of Nerditude. I am so glad we are here tonight.
Yes, as am I. So happy. Welcome back to you. You were gone.
I know. How is bachelorhood right now?
You know, I thought it was going to be better than it is.
Really?
It's been different. I'm used to always being around somebody in the house, working from home with Jesse and Emmy constantly here.
Yeah.
I thought I was excited to get some time alone, and I have not really enjoyed it much at all.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been different than I thought.
You're not doing it right.
Yeah, I mean, there's good things about it. I can talk about some of those good things. Been spending lots of time eating lots of good food.
Nice.
So that's been enjoyable, but the alone parts haven't been so great. My parents moved here recently, and my little sister is here before she goes back off to college, so I spent a lot of time hanging out with them, and we did a lot of fun stuff, though. Went down to the Riverwalk one night, got some Ghirardelli ice cream, you know. So there were some good things to not have to worry about a child.
True.
And paying for a babysitter and all that stuff, so that was enjoyable. Mostly about food, and I was like, this is going to be my video game weekend, you know?
Yeah.
I've got time. I've put all of 40 minutes maybe into things this weekend. She's been gone since Thursday at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I just, wow. I didn't make it a priority, to be honest. There were projects around the house I needed to take care of too, and Jesse's
sometimes
not
though
here,
that's okay. Like, you know, doing project work is a good thing.
Absolutely. Project work, regular work, spending time with family that isn't just my wife and daughter. So it was nice to spend time differently than I normally do.
Yep.
Stayed up a heck of a lot later, which has been great, watching shows and YouTube and playing a little bit of games and stuff. So overall, it's been good, but also I'm ready to not be by myself.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. Well, so I actually saw Jesse over the weekend and Emmy, and this is the first time I've seen Jesse, I think, pregnant. Because I don't think I saw Jesse when she was pregnant at all with Emmy, or maybe like at the very, very early stages. Your wife is smuggling a beach ball under her shirt right now.
Seriously.
Like so there's pregnant, and then there's like, she's going to get, you know, busted for shoplifting. And she has the I'm smuggling something under my shirt look to her.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, ooh, yeah, she's definitely moving along, and she's, you know, getting there. But I will tell you, like, Emmy was so much fun to be around. And I know Jesse, you know, I know how it is, like, when you have a kid that's, you know, being a little difficult, and you're worried because they're not sleeping, and that you're worried they're keeping other people up when you're at someone else's house. Like, I know that stress, and I could see it on her, and everyone was like, don't worry about it. Because realistically, no one cared.
Right.
And I can sleep through screaming kids now. Like, that's old hat. But I didn't hear her anyway. But Emmy was really good. She seemed to like interact with all of the adults fairly well. She came right over to me and wanted me to pick her up and high five and do, you know, knuckles, and because I do the Baymax, the blah la 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 la, you know, thing. So she was doing that over and over, but she loved, and I mean loved, just chasing after Charlie and Jackson. And I kept telling Charlie and Jackson, so like they'd do something and then they wanted to go off and play something. And it was like the last day we were there. And I said, hey, Emmy wants to watch a movie downstairs. This is the last time you get a chance to be around Emmy for a while. Go watch a movie with her. And Jackson's like, oh, okay. And then Charlie's like, wait for me. And so like they run downstairs and they sat with Emmy and they were just like watching this movie. And then something happened where like one of the boys got a drink of water. So Emmy wanted a drink of water. So she came upstairs. And then both of the boys came upstairs because they wanted to be around her. And then they went downstairs and Emmy followed them. Like it was just like this game where like they just kind of followed each other around and they played a bunch. And it was just a lot of fun to watch. But apparently though, Emmy was not very happy after we left because she missed her friends. Yeah. She missed her cousins.
Yep.
But
she had a good time. That's the report from Jessie. She loves Charlie and Jackson. She remembers them from FaceTime.
I don't know why.
Because they're like her, man. They're crazy, and she loves the crazy. So she was excited. She was talking about them, and she was ready to party.
I gotta say, I'm glad that Emmy has more energy like Charlie and Jackson. Because for a while, it was just like Charlotte and Truman and Charlie and Jackson. Yeah. And like Charlotte is this like very sweet, kind, young little lady, this little girl. Mm-hmm. But she's quiet and she's not crazy. She's very thoughtful. She's very intelligent. Not saying my kids aren't thoughtful and intelligent, but I mean, they're little boys. They're crazy. And then for the longest time, Truman was just like super quiet and like you had to like pull a conversation out of him.
Right.
That's changed, thankfully.
Yes.
He's all boy now.
Oh yeah.
But at first he was real quiet. So like I always felt bad because when our boys would get around like Charlotte and Truman before Eric and Karen had Valentine and were together for family stuff, I was like, yep, my kids are the crazy ones. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I felt so like awkward because like their kids are all prim and proper and quiet, and my kids are like running through like they're like fire. I'm like, you can't yell that in public, That was my boys.
Yeah.
And Emmy just like chases after the boys and has a good time and like I love that because it was just fun watching them do that and have that interaction. So, yep. Which obviously, I missed you. I know Jesse, of course, missed you, but we missed having you up there. Yeah. So we did go up to Montana this last week, Super Friends. We had a kind of a funeral / memorial service for Jesse and Brida's grandmother who'd passed, and we had a really good turnout. I mean, we had aunts and uncles from Billings, Montana show up, and Uncle Hubert, Bumpa's brothers showed up, and so like there was a good showing. Phil and Joy and some of the boys and whatnot. But I gotta say, I was really nervous, Matt. Really nervous because my boys had never been to a funeral service before. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, they're boys. They're going to run around. They're going to be noisy. And it's a graveside service. And Nana had been cremated. So her remains are in an urn. I'm thinking, yeah, okay. We're just like, this is not a good scenario. And so like as we were pulling up, I said, Charlie Jackson, I need you to listen to me and I need you to hear me. We need to be quiet. We need to be reverent. You cannot run around. You cannot like be noisy. You cannot climb on things. We're here to say goodbye to Nana and have a funeral service. And Charlie actually had the idea of like bringing flowers to the grave, and like no one else thought of that, but Charlie did. He says like, Daddy, Mommy, we need to bring flowers to Nana's grave. That's so cute. So we went and stopped and got some flowers at the grocery store and had the great grandchildren kind of put it kind of on the, the area where the urn was. Yeah. But thankfully my boys were like I was about to say dead quiet, man. Maybe that's not the right way to put that.
That's an interesting choice of words.
Yeah. No pun intended. But they were just as quiet could be. and all the kids actually were very quiet. But they were quiet as quiet can be. Charlie just like stood right next to me, held my hand. And at one point he just kind of whispered, he says, "Daddy, how did they get Nana in that jar?" And I was like, "We'll talk about that later, son. Like, I don't need to be talking about cremation 2 feet behind Bumpa.
Right, yeah.
In the middle of this service."
Yeah.
And the service was okay, but I got to admit that this Samoan minister from like this Community of Christ Church or whatever they went to, he went on a little long, and he repeated himself like 3 or 4 times. I was like, I've heard him say this already.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, but it seemed to prolong the service.
Right.
So, so we did that, and that was real nice, and that was real sweet. And then, of course, also the fair was going on.
Yeah, I know.
Let me tell you something about the fair, Matt. I wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of the fair because I've been to fairs as a kid.
Right.
And as an adult. And it's exactly what you think of when you think of a fair. It's exactly what a fair is. But everyone was so excited about the fair. They're like, it's the fair, we got to go to the fair. And like Chris, our mother-in-law, like had like cut out from the newspaper, like the listings of like all the food places and all the things they were selling, like all the food they were selling.
There you go.
Like ahead of time. And I was like, why is this such a big deal? Like, this is just a fair. And then I started thinking about it, and I realized they're in a small town in northeastern Montana. There is not a lot of excitement and entertainment. So once a year in the summer when the fair comes to town, that would be a big deal because you've got a rodeo and you've got rides and carny games and all the food and livestock and all the kind of like things on display and being sold and people coming from all over, North Dakota, Canada, Montana, Wyoming, wherever.
Right.
And so like I started thinking about that. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. And then of course for Chris, we went and ate dinner at the fair and had fair food 2 nights in a row, which I wasn't a fan of because it's fair food and usually that's not high quality food.
Right.
But for Chris though, I could understand why she was excited about that because no one had to cook a meal for dinner in her home.
True.
There was no dishes that had to be done. And I got to say, like, this is the first time I've spent time up there where we had one meal that we all kind of sat down and had together.
Yeah.
One. Whereas like Christmas, it's like, feels like 6 meals every day. And like everyone's always in the kitchen and something's being made or cooked or baked or whatever. And we're always doing dishes. And there was none of that. So like, I get that. But it's a fair. And for me, it was just kind of like, yeah, my kids had fun. They rode a bunch of rides.
Yeah.
It was a long drive to get up there. It was a very long drive getting back because Charlie and Jackson both were getting sick about every 2 hours. One of the boys would be complaining like they thought they were going to throw up. So we'd pull the car over. We'd get out. We'd stretch our legs for 15 minutes to a half an hour.
Right.
Make sure everyone's feeling better. Then we get back in and we drive again. It was a long trip home. All I wanted to do was just keep their butts in the seats and just drive.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened.
Well,
so
it's a long drive to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I did see a bear though as we went through Yellowstone.
Well, that's notable.
So, everyone else was asleep or looking at tablets and iPads, but I saw it.
Well,
I pointed it out.
You're the only one that counts. I mean, it's your reality.
That is true.
Jessie was very excited about the fair because she grew up going to the fair, so she was pretty excited. The corn dogs, and there was something else. I don't remember if it was cookies or
mini donuts.
Else. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
yep,
I know.
Donuts.
I watched them all get excited about these mini donuts.
Yes, they were. Jessie was very excited about those things. So
they're small cake donuts covered in cinnamon sugar. I don't see the appeal, why it's such a big deal, but they love them.
Hey, there's things as a kid that I remember that I've eaten since that just suck.
Yeah.
So, hey, I get it. The nostalgia wins out. And at the end of the day, you go, I had this as a kid. I'm into it. I mean, I love rodeos because I grew up going to rodeos. No matter how bad the rodeo food is, I will still claim, this is good, deep fried, whatever it is I'm eating right now.
Right.
Love it.
I did notice there was not a single healthy option anywhere to be found. Not a salad,
bit surprising, I guess.
Not like some sort of like a rice bowl, nothing.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't even like chicken or steak kebabs. It was all like hamburgers, hot dogs, nachos.
Yep.
There was some barbecue.
Small time. It's expensive to make healthier options. That's probably a relatively small fare.
I will tell you though something, Matt, I did see that I totally want to rip off to sell. There was a stand that literally took like a half gallon of ice cream and they probably cut it into 6. So cut it twice vertically and then once horizontally. So they had these 6 square chunks of ice cream. They stuck a popsicle stick in it, like a tongue depressor, and then they dipped it in that chocolate that hardens, the magic shell that hardens around that. And then they put a little plastic bag on it, and then they put it in a freezer. and they sold these things for like $4.50 bucks.
Man.
It probably cost them less than 50 cents each to make.
Right.
And they were selling these things like crazy. Like they were running out. And I went, that is genius. There's not much to it. You go buy it was like the Walmart brand ice cream. Yeah, it wasn't even like quality ice cream. But it's a genius idea. And I went, wow, what a great way to mark up something that already exists and make a killing at it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I would sell that. I don't know where I would do that, but if an opportunity arrives, it's quick, it's easy, and it's a moneymaker.
Yeah. That's not a bad idea. And it does sound good, especially on a hot day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it.
I mean, it's just like a big ice cream bar, like a sundae bar. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, other than that, man, I didn't stream Spider-Man at all. I knew the internet was not going to be conducive up there to trying to stream a video game every night, so I was not on Twitch this week.
You didn't make your $1.50?
I did not. No, didn't make $1.50 last week. I'm gonna have to work extra hard this week.
Nope, $3. I expect to hear back.
Right. I think that's about all I've made in total. $2.65, I believe, is the count. But anyway, so I didn't do that. I didn't watch a lot of stuff. I did take my PS4 with me and a monitor, and I set it up in the basement room, and I did play Apex Legends in the evenings, and then occasionally, during the daytime when, all the kids were outside, on the swimming, inflatable pool thing for, 4 hours. It's I don't really need to be here. I was like, Brita, how about you call me when you need a break, and I'll, switch shifts, and then I'll watch them. And we did that.
Yeah.
But, so, my week was kind of weird and different, and yours sounded like you
kind of weird
just
and different.
Weird and different as well. Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of normal happening.
Well, let's not be normal, then let's just kill some Bothans. What do you say?
Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, we have slaughtered Bothans in a weird, unusual, not normal way. And we got some weird, unusual, not normal rebel intelligence. How about that?
Yeah, we do.
What do you got for me this week, Matt?
Well, news that shakes the whole earth.
Ooh.
For everybody. I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm not going to say under the age of 14, but I just said it anyway. Ninja, our favorite Fortnite streamer.
Yeah.
Who streamed on Twitch, makes a killing.
Yeah.
Playing Fortnite. Cut ties with Twitch and is now exclusively streaming on Mixer.
Yeah.
Big deal. Big deal, no deal. What do you think?
So, I saw the announcement, which was kind of tongue-in-cheek, right? I mean, it was they made it staged like he was in a press conference, but all the people asking questions is actually just Ninja with, different hairstyles or pretending to be old or something.
Yeah.
So it was funny, and that's fine. This is one of those things where Mixer's owned by Microsoft, and they're trying to make their platform bigger because Twitch is owned by Amazon. and Twitch is obviously like the gorilla in the room. Like it's the big platform.
Yep.
So they're wanting to make a splash. They're wanting to beef up, their platform. So who do you go after? You go after one of the biggest, names in streaming. And Fortnite is like one of the biggest games in the world right now still. And it's one of the biggest streaming games.
Yep.
So you get a guy like Ninja. That's great. That's fine. The question is, does that actually make an impact to Twitch? And I read some things that said that pretty much, people that watch him on Twitch, like basically saying like the numbers for people watching Fortnite on Twitch didn't take that much of a drop at all.
Really?
People are still watching. Now, that's not to say they're not watching him on Mixer.
Right.
But
yeah,
this isn't something I think where people are going to be like loyal to one platform over another.
Yeah.
So they're going to watch streamers they want to watch on whatever platform they're on.
Yep.
So
big for Mixer, not big for Twitch. Is what the feeling is. I think it's a big deal for Mixer though to get. I mean, it said like their subscribers went up by 500,000 in the last few days. I mean, that's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that now, I've started streaming on Twitch recently, and I know a bunch of Twitch streamers, and so people are talking about the idea that Mixer has kind of a lower threshold to get into the place where like you could earn money than Twitch does. Right. And so, and it does some different things, but it's not as fleshed out as Twitch. So a lot of people right now that are in the streaming world are kind of talking about this whole like, you have a massive star on Twitch who's now jumped ship to a rival platform. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? So a lot of other Twitch streamers are checking it out. So does that 500,000, is that just people that are watching Ninja? I don't think so. But I think it's a lot of other streamers that are maybe taking an opportunity to sign up, subscribe, and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
Which I think works in Mixer's favor. And even if that is all that they try to do out of this, business-wise, that's great because they're going to get a lot more eyeballs on their platform. So
yeah, it's it's a decently big deal. He had over 14 million followers on Twitch.
Yeah.
That is so... a kid's like 28 years old playing Fortnite. It just blows my mind. 14 million?
Makes a lot of money.
How much money did they have to pay him to switch? I don't know. I'd like to see the contract there, but, I never will.
I thought that they... Maybe I'm wrong. I thought I heard something about like what they paid him to switch.
I don't see it.
Yeah,
he says he made when at Twitch he made more than $500,000 a month. More than $500,000 a month. Why would you leave that? Even if they paid you a boatload of money, I would. I don't see what Ninja gets from this, but
well, I mean, it's got to be a boatload of money. First of all,
millions and millions.
I mean, I would imagine so. The other thing I wonder is if since he's such a big name and Microsoft is trying to make a big splash, I wonder if they not only offered him a lot of money, but if they offered him some shares.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because in that case, like if, let's say he's making what, $500,000 a month, right?
Yep.
So he's making $6 million a year over on Twitch. If they just say, hey, we're going to offer you $6 million to come over here, that's just a year's worth of money. Uh-huh. That's not that big of an incentive where he's already got an established fan base and all that, right?
Right.
So if they offer him that, but then they also say, but we're going to give you 3% of everything Mixer makes.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, now we're talking this potentially could have big upside.
Right.
So it's interesting. I think it's exciting in the gamer world. I definitely think it's going to shake things up and people are going to take a harder look at the video game streaming industry. Also, I think if there's more defections, if we see other big name streamers start moving over,
Right.
Twitch may make some changes to their platform that could, open things up a little bit more and entice people to come back or to stay and not leave. It's hard to say, but there's going to be things that are going to be, happening as a result of this.
Agreed.
So it's just the first domino.
Yep. What do you got for us?
So not related at all to Ninja
It's not a bad thing.
or Twitch. I want to go back to Star Trek. And last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how there was the trailer for Star Trek Picard at San Diego Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find out more. We know this is going to be coming after the Star Trek Nemesis movie. Well, we also heard this last week that a couple other things that are happening. There's going to be a Picard comic book that's going to be coming, and a prequel novel, which to me is very, very interesting because we're going to get a prequel novel and a comic book, and this is supposed to be happening before we actually get the TV show or right around the time. So why I find this really interesting is that we know that Star Trek Discovery has done really well so far on CBS All Access. This to me, though, says that CBS All Access, Paramount, is literally putting everything they have at trying to make sure that Star Trek Picard is going to be a massive hit because they've got a returning captain from one of the most beloved series in the Star Trek universe. They're having some other returning actors from that. They're wanting to have as many tie-ins as possible with prequel novel, with comic book, that CBS is going to throw everything at this to make this good and make this right, which to me is exciting. Because if this was done just kind of half-hearted, I would feel like it would be such a waste of going back and getting Patrick Stewart to come back and reprise the role.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that I'm going to read a prequel novel or the comic book, if I'm just being completely honest.
Sure.
But I do find it interesting that we're going to be getting a lot more media tie-ins in this universe. And if this does really, really, really well, who knows
Yeah.
what else, could spin off or come from this.
Right.
So
Sounds very Star Warsy. The comic book and novel tie-ins, and Star Wars does that a lot, especially with the recent films. They've been doing things like that.
Star Trek has had a lot of books. They've definitely
Right.
they've definitely had a lot of kind of spin-off books or kind of books in the universe with these characters that weren't necessarily canon, but there's been plenty of that. But comic book, prequel novel, I mean, it just, it all has the air of this is going to be big, this is going to be exciting, and we want to, capture as much of that as we can.
It's awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you.
Ah, look at you.
That's great.
All right, what else you got for me?
So I've got some news here from Electronic Arts, our favorite company, EA, who consistently puts out great games and great content.
With no problems or
no
loot box
hitches,
issues.
no microtransactions. They're phenomenal. They've
Yep.
done a great job with Star Wars. I mean, they're just awesome. So they are saying, as it pertains to the Switch, they were asked in their investor meeting, they said, hey, why aren't these games coming to Switch? They were talking specifically about The Sims. And CEO says, because people don't want to play it on the Switch. They don't want to play our games on the Switch. Our research says that these Switch owners already have a PC, a PlayStation, or an Xbox, and they prefer to play our games on those platforms. That was his answer.
Yeah, that answer
I call
says...
bullcrap on that.
Yeah, that answer says, I'm lazy, I don't want to pay people to do it.
Correct. They've half done what they have put on the Switch, like FIFA, is just awful on the Switch.
Yeah.
They strip it down. They use their PS3 engine to create it. It's just a shame. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, it's just we're lazy. We don't want to do it, And
I mean, games like The Witcher and Skyrim have been ported over.
I know.
And so you're going to tell me that we can't bring The Sims?
Nope. They can't bring The Sims, and definitely not Madden. Madden is too far advanced for the Switch. Oh my.
Well, here's the other thing about this, Matt. The Sims seems like that would be a perfect.
I agree.
Perfect game to bring over because
agree.
it's a game where you're controlling this like little universe and, you know, all your people and whatnot.
Check in when you want to check in.
Yeah.
Wherever you're at. It seems so strange to me.
So easy.
Yep.
That seems so easy. And here's the other thing. Even if people buy games in other places, people will buy games on other platforms. I own Final Fantasy. I have the original PS1 discs, the 3 discs for it still. I had it on the PS2. I mean, I could play it, I guess, on my PS2. Right. I bought it on the PS3. I bought it on my PSP. I have it on my PS Vita. I have it on my PS4. And I have it on my Nintendo Switch. I love that game. It's nostalgia. I haven't played that game in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And I have bought it in the last 10 years probably 4 times for 4 different consoles and platforms.
Yep.
Square Enix got my money again for the Switch version. And I don't even know if I'm going to play it. But if I want to play it there, I know that I have it.
Yeah.
And my love of that game makes me want to have it on every single platform possible. I don't know why. I'm not like that with most games, but that game is special to me.
Right.
So EA is being lazy. They're leaving money on the table. There would be people that would say, like, yeah, I like playing The Sims on my PC. However, I'm not near my PC right now. I'm going to be traveling for 2 weeks for work.
Yep.
I would love to manage, you know, my Sims while I'm gone.
Yep.
Why are you leaving money on the table, EA? That just seems
so
stupid.
Dumb.
In a long stretch of questionable business practices,
Yep.
This one just seems like ridiculously easy and stupid.
I'm glad you agree, because I completely agree. And of course, Reddit was just like, we see right through you. This is you being stupid again.
Yeah.
Congratulations, EA. You're being dumb.
You know how there's this whole website called change.org?
Yes, of course.
That was set up many years ago, and you can go and you can put a petition. You can get lots of people to sign it. But there's nothing binding about change.org that makes anyone do anything. It's just, hey, go sign your name, feel like you're making a difference.
Sure.
Look at us. There's a lot of people. I wish that change.org had the ability to, like, it was some binding something or another in a way.
Right.
Because how fast would there be a petition to remove the CEO of EA?
Oh my gosh. It would be many, many millions in one day, would be my guess.
I've never signed change.org for anything. But after hearing this, it's like, oh man, I would sign that in a heartbeat.
Oh my gosh.
I would create an account just to go sign this thing because this is just dumb. I mean, I'm not saying companies need to be greedy, corporate, capitalistic, monsters. But I mean, there's people that literally are saying, take my money.
Yep.
And you're not going to do it because you
weird.
just think it's lazy. That's just lazy.
Makes no sense.
I don't like it.
Nope. Moving on.
Well, I'm going to stay on a Nintendo Switch themed news article here for some Rebel Intelligence, but this one actually is interesting and fun and is not lazy.
Excellent.
So, as you may know, jailbreaking has been a big thing for a long time. I remember having an iPhone years and years and years ago and jailbreaking it so I could have the ability to put a swipe keyboard on it or have some other, apps that at the time weren't available. Well, the Nintendo Switch has now been jailbroken.
Uh-oh.
And it's running Android, which makes me so happy because I'm such a fan of Android. I love it. I love the platform. There's so much it can do.
Yep.
But the cool thing about this is that the Nintendo Switch has been basically modded and jailbroken in a way that literally you can boot your Nintendo Switch off of a micro SD card to run Android. And then you can run normal Android apps like Spotify, YouTube, Netflix,
Right.
All the things that you kind of want your Switch to do, but Nintendo is saying like, yeah, we'll get there eventually, but they just haven't yet.
Yeah.
And so you can run it as Android, and then you can reboot it and just boot it right back off the Switch again, and you can play all your Switch games like you normally would. But the cool thing is, if you boot it into the Android, you can run like the Nintendo DS emulator, so you could run a whole bunch of old Nintendo DS games off of it that you can't do right now. Now, it's not going to do some things. You can't do like FaceTime or Google Duo because it doesn't have a camera microphone.
Yeah.
It's not going to be able to do Pokemon Go, which I wish you could because that would be awesome. But you can't do that because of some of the GPS issues and whatnot. But right now, out in the wild, apparently fairly easy. You can go to a website and pretty much get everything you need with like 3 little clicks.
Oh boy.
Put it on a micro SD card. You can run Android on your Switch. And I got to tell you, Matt, I'm kind of tempted because I've got a little Raspberry Pi that I did I did some modding. It's called a Retro Pi, and I had an old PS3 controller hooked up to it, and I could play a whole bunch of emulated games that I own. But part of me says like, ooh, if I could watch Netflix on that thing, if I could do this, if I could do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It would be nice. I must agree. It would be nice.
I may look into it.
Oh boy, let me know how that goes. I'm too scared to do that.
If all I have to do is boot off of the micro SD card, that's not actually changing anything in the firmware.
Right.
Like
that's true.
I've modded my old PSP, and like that thing I had to do some serious work to get running, and it was like, if you do this wrong, if you don't do it in this order, you will brick your PSP and it's gonna be dead. This is nothing like that. So anyway, Nintendo Switch, you can run Android on it now. So it's a bright new shiny day for the Nintendo Switch Android community.
Oh, it's exciting. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm too scared, but that's cool for those that want to do it. Great. All right. I've got some interesting news from the MCU.
Okay.
I mean, it's news. It's not news. So the Deadpool 2 director, David Leitch, excuse me if I say that incorrectly, has been quoted as saying, as it pertains to Deadpool, a potential of Deadpool 3 and how he's going to work in the MCU. I think there's been a couple of questions around this. How does he fit in?
Sure.
Can he fit in? Because it's,
Yeah.
He says
Deadpool's not exactly family friendly?
No, not quite. So he says, quote, "It's rated R, so that's not necessarily the MCU brand, but he," meaning Deadpool, "doesn't necessarily need to be R. And Disney doesn't necessarily need to only make PG-13 movies. So it's a big fat non-statement. However, it's making the rounds as Deadpool doesn't need to be rated R, that he can fit in to the MCU. And I agree with that. I think that he can. I mean, they showed it with Once Upon a Deadpool. You can still have Deadpool be his sarcastic and condescending, self-loathing,
Merc with a mouth,
potty mouth, without going all the way potty mouth, and still make it PG-13. And I don't know if you can do that for a whole film. I think if to stay true to Deadpool, you may need to make another R-rated Deadpool 3. I'm not saying it has to be, but I think maybe to stay true. But as far as him showing up in an Avengers-type movie or popping up in some of these crossover films, you could easily do that. So I don't think he's ruled out. Obviously, he's not ruled out for the MCU really officially being branded into what they're doing there.
Yeah, and another thing, too, is this is the director of the second movie. That's nothing to say he's going to be involved in directing a third movie.
Right.
Or, that he's going to be... But I guess if him making that statement, which I agree is a non-statement statement, is maybe just his tip of the hat of saying, like, I'd like to see this character continue on in the MCU. Right. I think it's possible. And if he can convince others, Kevin Feige,
Right.
and Disney executives, then maybe we see something. So
Yep.
I hope that we do see Deadpool in the MCU. And I'll tell you why. I really like it. I really like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
He's awesome.
I think it's awesome. However, I think it's okay if we clean up the language a little bit and back off so much of the cursing that definitely makes it R-rated.
Right.
Because we're in an age now when you can have something that's PG-13 that would have been considered R 10 years ago.
Sure.
5 years ago even.
Yep.
And so I think you can still do edgy. I still think you can do the merc with a mouth without having to go the full Monty Deadpool, where like
Right.
everything he says is like cringe-worthy, crass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could do it, and I think you could also have those moments where it does start getting that way, and then be very humorous with it and point it out and make fun of it and break the fourth wall.
Yep.
Because that is Deadpool, and so I could see it happening. It all just depends on what Sony really wants to do, because Sony has other properties. I mean, like they have like the Alien franchise. Like, what are they going to do with that?
Yeah.
Because that's more horror, and Disney is not known for making, horror films.
Right. Right.
So Disney has an interesting road ahead of it to figure out what to do, because they have some intellectual property that they can still make quite a lot of money on.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily fit the Disney brand as it's been in the past.
Right. Right.
So do you still put it under the Fox banner because they own the rights to the,
Yeah.
Fox movie,
Right.
20th Century Fox? I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could go. I mean, Miramax is owned by Disney, and they have rated R movies there.
Yep.
So it's not unheard of, but will we see the Disney logo at the beginning of a movie, and then it's going to be, F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool? Probably not.
No, I doubt it. I doubt they do that.
But, then again, maybe they wouldn't do the F-bombs, but maybe they would put that Disney logo just to kind of make fun of the fact, that Deadpool breaks the fourth wall, and
Sure.
he knows that he's now owned by Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know it's Deadpool. Anyway.
You never know it's Deadpool. Exactly. I'm hoping it works out. I hope we can get him in there.
Me too. Speaking of something that I hope works out, although I am not very confident it will. You remember we talked a little while ago about the old Sonic the Hedgehog movie?
Yes.
And Sonic had a look about him. There was a trailer, and immediately, and I mean immediately, Twitter and the internet was in an uproar about how bad this thing looked. And within days, literally, there was an announcement that they were going to be reworking the character because it's all CGI, so they can do it. It's all done on computers. And then they basically had to push back the movie a few months, 3 or 4 months, to give more time to do this. So recently, Jim Carrey, he was speaking at a panel for the Television Critics Association press tour, and they were asking him about Sonic the Hedgehog, and asking him if he's going to have to film more stuff because of the pushback, and what he thought of the backlash. And he gave a kind of a very interesting answer. He says, "I don't know quite how I feel about the audience being in on the creation of it while it's happening. Sometimes you find that the collective consciousness decides it wants something, and then when it gets it, it goes, okay, I don't want it. You become a Frankenstein's monster at some point, right?" And so Jim Carrey basically says, listen, we're artists. I mean, this is me paraphrasing a little bit, but this is what I get from it, is that he's saying, look, we're artists. We are the ones that are creating it. Realistically, you should judge whether or not you like our creation, our artistry, once it's done, once the process is completed. But letting in just the internet and fans in general while that process is still going on, then starts getting into this collective groupthink mentality.
Right.
And now we're kind of beholden to that. Now, I get why they would want to redesign it because it was such a big backlash. I mean, it was a horrible
massive.
backlash. And I did look at it, and it was bad looking.
Yes.
I still don't think it's going to be a great movie.
No.
I still think it's going to be a crap movie.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm going to go see it because Jim Carrey is going to be playing a mustache-twirling villain that has robots.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
What's
there's
not to
that.
love?
I mean, it feels more like classic Jim Carrey. I could care less about the actual Sonic the Hedgehog part of it. That trailer was horrible, though. Oh my gosh, it looks bad.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
gonna be
Gangster's Paradise. Oh,
it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. I don't know how it's not bad. But I do understand what Jim Carrey is saying. Like, creatively, should we really be opening this up? What do you think? Should the public be in on the creative process?
that's a great question. I don't even think it's like it's impossible for them not to be involved. I feel like now in the age where we live in, where information is immediately evaluated and passed around the entire world. That trailer hit, and it was, like you said, it just lit everything up.
Yeah, it was
And
immediate.
I don't know how you could release that movie like that. I personally believe that they did the right thing, but this is me as a fan of Sonic. Always a huge fan of Sonic. Sega Genesis was like my first, one of my first systems, I should say. And I've loved Sonic ever since. I have Sonic Mania on my Switch. I put in like 40 hours into it. I mean, I love Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast. I could go on and on. I loved all of them. And so it's been an important part of me growing up. And when I saw the design, I went, how the F do you screw this up? There's like 50 games of Sonic and you make him look like that? And so I think it's important for artists also to be held accountable. So it's like a 50-50. I definitely get where Jim Carrey's coming from. But with something like Sonic, I think you leave yourself open to criticism because there's too much source material and it's too passionate of a fan base to, I don't know, really mess them up. It's one thing if it's an original project with original source material and you're releasing it to the public and this is my vision. To me, that's different than here we're taking your childhood hero and we're making him look like a stupid idiot. And that to me is a little bit different.
The other thing that I kind of find somewhat interesting, this is me personally, this is just me speaking, is that he's talking about like the creative process and like, you know, doing this and collective consciousness, blah, 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 blah. We're talking about a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Like, there's no way he's not doing this movie only for a paycheck.
Yeah, of course.
Now, if we were having this conversation about collective consciousness and the internet being involved, when we're talking about like when he did Man on the Moon, where he was portraying Andy Kaufman, the comedy legend, that was, you know, a biopic piece. And like, that was like, it was, you know, if we're talking about then, like, I would say, okay, like, you know, we're having a real conversation about this. And not that I'm discounting that he really has these true feelings, but at the same time, it's kind of like, this is a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Like, I know it's a creative process, and I'm not trying to downplay that because I'm not. But I mean, it also kind of feels like this isn't exactly highbrow creative content.
Hey.
I'm just saying. I'm coming from a guy who played a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog games in the past.
I'm kidding. No small projects for Jim Carrey, okay? Dude is as real as they come. No small projects. I hear what you're saying, though. It is pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean,
it's still gonna suck, but I'm much more likely to watch. I'm definitely actually going to watch it now. Before I was like, I'm probably gonna watch it. Now I'm definitely gonna watch it.
That's the thing. It's like a car crash.
Oh yeah. You
have to turn your head and look as you go past. I feel like I'm gonna go see this movie for that reason alone.
That's good enough for me.
This is gonna be a horrible car wreck. And I want to say that I saw it.
Oh, yeah. In theaters, man, on the big screen in IMAX if they got it. I want to see every inch of Dr.
You're
Robotnik.
really going to go see this in IMAX? Oh, my.
I guarantee it won't be offered in IMAX. Not where I live. I'm sure there are better films coming out. But, hey, I love
your choice is to go see Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, or Sonic in IMAX.
Boy, that is a tough choice.
Sonic the Hedgehog comes out February 14th, 2020. So take
Valentine's
Jessie
Day.
out for Valentine's Day.
Oh my gosh. I already got it figured out. Okay. She's gonna
Nothing
be
says
stoked.
love like a CGI hedgehog
Oh yeah.
and Jim Carrey as a mustache-twirling villain.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh my gosh. It's going to be so
Get
good.
get that babysitter ready.
Oh yeah.
That's even worse. That's even worse, Matt. You would have to pay a babysitter also for you to go see this movie.
Oh man. I'd pay my babysitter quadruple what I normally.
Would Jessie actually go see this with you?
Yeah, she would.
Okay.
Jessie's chill, man. She would definitely go
I
see
don't-
it with me.
I think if I seriously tried to ask Brita to go see this with me, she's like, "That looks like crap." No. I really think she'd say no and make me see it on my own.
That's so sad.
I think that's
It might
awesome,
be better
and
by yourself. Who knows?
I just love the fact that I think I know her well enough after 10 years of marriage to
Yeah.
know she's gonna be like, "No, I'm not gonna go see that crap,"
Yeah.
and that's okay because
It
I
is.
don't have to go see rom-coms with her.
That's
She
true.
goes with her sister. She just knows I don't want to watch those movies, so she doesn't even ask me.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
maybe I will ask her. Oh gosh.
You should definitely ask. her.
So side note, I very, very rarely ever do anything for Valentine's Day. I feel like it's a holiday that's propped up by
Right.
chocolate companies, flower canned, Hallmark, all that blah blah
Right.
blah. Plus I should also be expressing love for her on a more frequent
Absolutely.
basis than once a year. Occasionally I have done something for Valentine's Day. Occasionally. And it's always a big surprise. And if she listens to this, it's going to be ruined, and she does listen to most of them. But
Rita, don't listen. Spoilers.
don't listen, Brita. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Super friends, if I were to tell her that I planned a big surprise Valentine's Day,
I'm already loving this.
and then I take her out to a fancy dinner, and then we go see the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, I might be divorced by February 15th.
Oh my gosh!
What?
Oh man!
You told me we were doing something fancy and romantic, and you took me to this schlock.
Oh
Anyway.
no! She doesn't understand. Read Jim Carrey. He really puts a lot behind this, Brita. You're missing the artistic point.
Listen, there's a collective consciousness that was addressed during this film.
Oh my!
It's going to be registered in the National Library of Congress. Anyway, that is the last thing I had for Rebel Intelligence.
Oh man! Whoop! I think we're done. Let's move on. Let's spare ourselves and our wonderful listeners.
Honey, this Valentine's Day, we're going to do something special. I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be, but trust me, you will just be racing out of your
There
seat.
you go. Yes.
To be a part of this. We're going to grab the brass ring this year and make the most out of it. Okay. I just can't even bring myself to think about it realistically, but that's it.
I'm already there.
So last week we had a wonderful conversation about Stranger Things season 3. I feel like I'm going through withdrawals because I'm not watching Stranger Things now, and I kind of want to go back and rewatch it all again. But we asked the Super Friends what was your favorite reoccurring character and then new character in season 3.
Oh yes, I remember. Yes, of course.
And we got an answer or two. I tried making sure that I got this out, but of course I was doing it around all the vacation stuff and the funeral stuff. So we will start over on the email, fortofnerd@gmail.com. Peter Christensen says, "Dear nerds, I also have the Weber Road Trip grill, but it's still my only grill. Someday I'll get a Traeger."
Upgrade. Oh, a Traeger. There you go. You're going
So-
way upgrade.
Peter Christensen, turn the volume up way high right now. Make sure the wife and the kids can hear this. Okay. Get Peter a Traeger. You love this man. Father's Day, birthday, Christmas. Put them all together. Wrap it up all into one. Get a paper route. Donate plasma. Get a second job. Do what you got to do. Show this man some love. Get him a Traeger. All right, Peter, you can now turn it back down, and you can admit you had no clue I was going to say that or do that. And there you go, man. Hopefully the seed has been planted. He does go on to say, I've only watched the first episode of Stranger Things Season 3, so I put the rest of your episodes on hold. Put the rest of the episode on hold. It also took a long time for me to listen to the Stranger Things mini episodes you and Steve did a few years ago. Cheers, Peter Christensen. I get that. It took me a lot longer to get through this season with all the things going on and responsibilities than it has in the past. So, Peter, I'm not going to take it personally like, you didn't want to listen. I know you want to listen, but you don't want to be spoiled, and that is okay.
That is okay.
But turn it back up again real loud, Peter, real fast. Get him a Traeger. Okay, you can turn it back down. Going over to Facebook, facebook.com/ForwardOfNerd. We got Caleb Albers. He says, my favorite character throughout the show has been Dustin. I love the humor he brings to the show and his relationship with Steve. Absolutely hilarious. I agree.
Completely agree.
I agree. I want to see a spin-off show, just the two of these.
So good.
Oh, man. He says, going for new characters, I really like Alexi.
Oh, yes. My man.
And then there's something else, but I'm not going to read it because I know Peter hasn't seen it, and it would massively spoil, and I don't want to give him the spoiler.
I'm trying to imagine what this individual has said, and I feel the same way. Yep.
So, yeah.
It's something.
It's something,
and Alexi is a wonderful, wonderful man. Just
he's a wonderful, wonderful character.
Get the right flavor, for Pete's sake.
I love his Slurpee meme that's going around everywhere right now.
So
it is my favorite. It is my absolute favorite. I think I used it like twice early last week. Let's go over to Twitter, Fort of Nerd, at Fort of Nerd. And OLP Mike BC at Life of Mike BC says, Dustin is my favorite regular and Erica is my favorite new character. She'll make an awesome addition to the team. I think that's okay to say Erica was a new character this season.
Yeah,
I mean, she did show up last season and she did have like 3 lines and she was sassy back then.
Yep.
But realistically, we had her as a more prominent character in season 3 versus just like the, hey, I'm the little sis that has 3 lines that just kind of, bugs the older brother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This was more like, she was involved. She had purpose. So, Super Friends, thank you so much for your answers of our question of the week. We didn't have anything over on the voicemail or the Instagram this week. But we appreciate every week that you do answer and you do write us in. We like having these conversations. We like hearing your opinions, your thoughts, your quandaries, or whatever that you want to share with us. Matt, Super Friends are out there. They're listening. They're maybe not listening to all the episodes because we're spoiling them, but they're listening to most of them.
Yeah.
How can they help us out this week?
Y'all hit up iTunes. You know the drill. Hit up iTunes. Like, subscribe, reviews. I'll say it again. Lifeblood of Amazon that I do is reviews for the products. Lifeblood of a podcast, reviews, engagement. Y'all do a great job of engaging us. We get responses every week. Just make sure to like, subscribe, review.
There you go.
It's that simple.
There you go. So, Matt, I know Emmy's only 2, and she's such a light little thing, by the way. I was so happy to pick her up because like Jackson's like 43 or 44 pounds.
Gosh,
Charlie's like 48 pounds. I was like, she's 13 pounds. I was like, she feels so light. I was tossing her in the air, and of course she got like a little nervous. I was like, okay, I won't really throw you, although I feel like I could chuck her halfway to the moon.
Sure.
But she's 2, so she's not old enough to be going to school yet. Jackson's starting kindergarten in 2 weeks. Charlie's going into 1st grade. But I was looking at Emmy. I was like, she's not there, but she's going to be going to that preschool here right before you know it.
Yeah.
And so back to school time, man. It's right around the corner. We're starting to get into the whole, like, we need to go take the kids out to get them some new clothes, some new shoes, backpacks, all the things that are needed. And I was thinking, there's a lot of really good back-to-school movies. And I think we should talk about some of our favorite back-to-school movies. Now, you can pick back-to-school movies, Matt, however you want. I did not say there's any sort of criteria.
Yes.
So we can talk about any like back to school type movies. I personally tried to not pick movies that are set in school or about school that don't have the feeling of like the
Newness.
back to school aspect of it.
Okay.
So like I didn't want to tell like, you know,
I tried the same.
Yeah, I didn't want to do like movies and be like, well, you know, or like, you know, let's say if I was doing TV shows, I wouldn't be like, back to you know, or not Back to the Cheese. Oh gosh, what's the name of the Bayside
This was
High?
going somewhere really great.
I know. I mean, I started off so well.
Yeah, this was a great stream of consciousness, and now it's just
Bayside High. Stranger
Saved by the
Things.
Bell?
Saved by the Bell. Good night.
There you go.
I am feeling very old. But like, so if we were doing TV, I wouldn't have talked about Saved by the Bell because that's high school, but not really has the feeling of like back to school. So we are talking movies. So what are some of your, like, what's one of your favorite kind of back to school movies? Like, what gets you in the mood thinking of like high school, college, junior high, whatever?
Right. So this was a little bit difficult because immediately I'm thinking of movies and they're all like school is ending. And so I had to reframe my brain and say, okay, what is a back to school? And I had to stretch it a little bit, I feel like. I'm trying to remember some of the premises of these movies.
Okay.
But the first movie I'm going to say is Mean Girls.
Ooh.
And I know that she's new, right? She's at least just transferred in. But
yeah,
because
she moved from like South Africa, right?
Yeah. I'm going to count this one. Mean Girls is one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
It's still so good, so funny, so smart. I love that movie. That was honestly the first movie I thought of when I thought of
which is interesting
movies.
Because the movie is really about like snarky females in the school.
Yes.
And like I love that movie and I think it's really funny, but like I don't find a lot of like characters that I can really like identify with in that because
it's a total. There's certainly no emotional attachment. It's like Pitch Perfect. It's just stupid funny to me. I love Pitch Perfect movies too. But Mean Girls is one of my favorite movies. I just remember watching it a lot when I was in high school and thinking it was really funny.
Nice.
And back then I thought Lindsay Lohan was something special.
She was back then.
Yeah.
Like
and now it's like
that was before all the crazy drug stuff and weird things and like she was kind of like the Disney darling.
Yes.
And then, you know,
then
things happened. Yeah.
Some drugs and stuff.
Yeah, that movie was written by Tina Fey.
Love Tina Fey.
And I love Tina Fey.
TV shows and movies and you could go on and on about how great Tina Fey is. So
she's very, very, very smart woman. She writes comedy very smartly and well. Yeah, love it. That's a great movie. I like that. So it's interesting because you kind of looked at the stretch of like back to school, like someone moving somewhere, going to a new school.
Right.
And I kind of have that same thing for one of my picks. And that's Footloose, the 1984 musical dramedy, whatever.
Sure.
So like Footloose is, if you have been living
how do you not know?
Under the Stairs, Harry Potter, it's based on a kid whose mom like moves to like this small Oklahoma town and has to take a job. And like they grew up in Chicago. And it's like he's like used to listening to like rock and roll music. They come to this town and it's like this like really conservative Christian town. He gets pulled over by the cops for like listening to like Ozzy Osbourne and like they steal his tape. He gets there and he realizes that dancing has been outlawed in the town because, you know, some kids went over the tracks and died because they were drinking and doing some stuff. And so like the town overreacted, but it's about this kid in high school. He moves to a new school. He has to adapt to this like country bumpkin way of life in this conservative town. And he has to deal with like, you know, overcoming odds, you know, and dealing with an abusive father and whatnot. And then he finds a way to put on a school dance. It has the feeling of high school, like all throughout it, but it does have that kind of back to school because it's like it starts off during the summertime and before school started, and then he's got to go to school the first day and kind of that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie for lots of reasons, but it does always kind of feel like a back to school, starting in a new school themed movie for me. And I just love it. It's got great music. It's acted really well. And it's got Kevin Bacon in it. And you cannot go wrong with Kevin Bacon, especially 80s Kevin Bacon.
No, you can't. Love him. I like that one too. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
I mean, you summed it up perfectly and beautifully. It's a great movie. And I'm sure I would say everybody's probably seen it.
And if not, go rent that crap because it is a good movie. Even though it's dated in 1984.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yep. Agreed. I will continue on the train of music.
Another
stretch. I'm going to be honest. Some of these are a little bit of a stretch.
Can I take a guess?
Go for it.
Are you going to say Grease?
No, but that's a good one too.
Okay.
No, I'm not going with a straight up musical.
Okay.
I'm going down the Jack Black train. School of Rock.
School of Rock. Okay.
And I assume this is back to school because, I mean, he's teaching students a subject. You know, it appears to me that these are students that are gathering together for the first time and are being introduced to the substitute teacher who they think is Mr. S. Well, it is, but it's really Jack Black who's trying to get his rent money and all that stuff.
Mr. Schneebly.
Yes, it seems very. This is a new school year, and they were trying to get some help. Mm-hmm. So anyway, long story short, Jack Black is again one of my most favorite of all actors. I love his new YouTube that he's doing, Jablinski. It's fantastic. I am a huge fan. Musically, I think he's brilliant and funny, and School of Rock these are all comedies. I'm just realizing all of the ones that I'm going to choose are all comedies. But this one is one of my favorite school movies in general. I like Mean Girls, and it's one of my favorite, new to school things, but School of Rock is just one of my favorite school films just at all.
Yeah.
As a fan of music, I've played guitar for 15 years, and so I always was into the music themes of movies, especially this one because it was cool. And Jack Black was really cool and funny, and it was about rock music, which is what my life was founded upon in high school, was rock music, and I wanted to listen to rock and be a rebel. So that movie is one of my favorite movies. It's so funny, so well acted. The kids were fantastic, all super talented musicians as well.
Super good, yeah,
just great.
What I also like about that is it's kind of a back to school movie in the fact that he goes back to school as a teacher,
too. Like so Billy Madison.
Yeah. So I mean, Billy Madison.
Movie is Billy Madison. No.
Billy Madison is a back to school movie. It was not on my list.
It wasn't.
I love that movie.
I just thought of it. That's a good movie too. Yeah.
But I mean, not near the top of the list in kind of this genre.
Right.
If we were saying stupid comedies, it's just
I can name 10 Adam Sandler movies that I love that are just awful.
Yes, exactly. So I was, I have Footloose, and that's kind of a comedy, drama, whatever. But the next one I picked is definitely more of a drama.
Okay.
And this is Mr. Holland's Opus.
Oh.
Because this is interesting, with your Jack Black, pick of School of Rock. Mr. Holland was trying to be a musician and trying to do that, but then he ended up going back to school to take a teaching gig because he needed some money and he needed something going on. And he found out that he really loved the students that he taught, and teaching a kid to bang a drum, to help him pass a class so he could play in football, and then seeing this having to attend that student's funeral because he died in Vietnam, and it's not just about one set of students in 1 year. It spans kind of a 30-year period of him fighting for the music program and fighting for these kids. and seeing new groups of kids come and go, and also struggling like in his own family and like with his wife and his son that has a disability because he's deaf. I love the movie. It's kind of a tearjerker at times,
Right.
but it is for me kind of a back to school movie because you see new kids cycle throughout the movie. Plus, he goes back to school, and then he also like you see him kind of like raising his son and getting his son to school. Anyway, I like that movie. It's maybe not the traditional, classical back to the school type of movie, but I still think it kind of fits the theme.
Love it. I think that's a good choice. I've never seen it.
Ooh, really?
I've heard of
you
it,
should watch
obviously, and I know the basic premise, but I've never seen that movie. But just you talking, I already thought of like 6 other movies because now you're talking about dramas, and I'm like, oh yeah, that movie, like Dead Poet Society, just popped into my head, and I was like, well, that would work. And that's a good one too, but that was not on my list.
Yep.
That one ends too sad to be on my list anyway.
Yeah.
Way too sad.
Way too sad.
That's a great pick. The final one that I've got, or one of the last ones, I think you might be surprised. I saved the best for last. And this is not just like I'm being funny. This is legitimately one of my favorite movies. And that movie is High School Musical.
I've never seen it.
Oh,
I know enough to prejudge it and not want to watch it.
Yep. I get it.
But by all means, tell me about it because you can prove me wrong and change my misconceptions and preconceptions.
I doubt that I can.
Yeah,
I think
probably.
it was just a thing. I think it was just like I was in high school, they were in high school, and Zac Efron was cool and Vanessa Hudgens was cute. And I was so into music and the storytelling, and it was stupid and it was silly. And I've always been kind of, I like to think of myself as a rebel, especially in high school, but I always went back to things that were just fun and silly. And High School Musical is ridiculous in that it's so dramatic and the songs they sing are kind of lame at times. But I love those movies. High School Musical 1 and 2 especially, but we're talking about High School Musical 1 here where they're on some type of vacation and Zac Efron meets Vanessa Hudgens and he goes back to school and she's a transfer student into their new school and she's never been there before and he helps her find her way around the school, and then he's cool, like big man on campus, but he really loves music and he wants to do the musical, but will he lose his status? And she's really a brainiac, but she doesn't, can she sing too? It's just this great, it's good lessons in there too about being balanced in your life and not being afraid to like do musicals. If that's what you really want to do, you can like sports and like musicals, and that's cool. And you can like this, whatever it is that you like to do. And there's a really great song in the cafeteria about it. It's really on the nose, but that movie is obviously directly about school. And I've always liked it. It's one of those movies where for me, it just makes me feel happy. And that's probably silly to most people listening to this, but it just makes me happy. I enjoy it. And I liked to sing the songs, and it's a good time. It's a really good time. And it was the beginning of Zac Efron. And who doesn't love a little bit of Zac Efron? You don't. Come on, man. Have a heart. He's a beautiful man.
He's not my cup of tea. Sorry.
Oh, my gosh. Anyway, it's that one's one of my favorites. I really like it.
Okay. So it's interesting that you pick High School Musical. And hearing you talk about this sounds extremely similar to my last pick. Mm-hmm. Now, there was a lot of other movies that I did kind of consider, like, if you were to go and Google, like, back to school movies, you're going to see things on there like 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off and The Breakfast Club. All great movies that deal around high school, but not necessarily maybe like back to school.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of stuff that I was kind of like, Or there was a couple others that I'm like, I've talked to death about these movies in other related conversations, like The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid's kind of the same idea of like Mean Girls, right? You know, starting over in a new school, moving cross country, kind of same thing as Footloose, which is why I didn't bring it up because I've talked about my love of Karate Kid and how I think it's probably one of the best 80s movies of all times.
Right.
But this one is similar to your High School Musical. I picked Grease. And the reason is because the movie starts off with, you know, Danny Zuko, the greaser who's been gone for the summer. And, you know, he went to, I think, Australia for the summer. And then it's, you know, Sandy, and Sandy went off and she was also in Australia. And so it's like the story about like these two that had like this summer romance, and then they come back and she's the new girl in school and she wants things to be like they were, but like he's got to look tough for his guys and keep his status symbol, and she kind of doesn't fit in. And then she's eventually kind of, you know, accepted by the Pink Ladies, you know, towards the end of this, but it's got music and dancing and singing. And there's a song about, you know, dropping out of high school. There's a song about, you know, summer romances and, you know, now school's back in and what's going to happen. It's a 1978 movie. It's set in the late 1950s. It's got drag races. It's got, you know, beauty school songs. It's got, you know, cars and hair, and it's a hand jive contest. I mean, it's a silly movie, but it's so much fun. Yep. And I mean, we're talking John Travolta in the heyday of John Travolta. Yep. It's definitely feels dated. It's not like a current one, but it definitely is, for me, is kind of like that back to school. Now we're going back, you know, after summer vacation type of deal. And so that was kind of one of the last ones I thought that I would toss on my list for my 3 movies or so that I thought we would talk about.
Love it. This is we have a very well-rounded list, I feel like.
Yeah.
We've spanned decades.
I did, Matt, as we were kind of talking about this idea, there was a lot of movies that I really loved. Like, I would have loved to include, you know, some of these movies, but like some of them I really did feel fit the whole back to school thing super well. Like people, you know, so we had this huge conversation when we were up in Montana about some of this. So like, what about this movie? Like, what about Napoleon Dynamite? I'm like, Napoleon Dynamite's a great, funny movie, and it revolves around some stuff in the high school, but I don't think of that as a like
back to school
movie. Same thing with like Back to the Future.
Yeah, I was thinking, yep.
And it's like, it's not, I don't think it really falls into the like that, hey, school's around the corner, we're going to start winding down summer, you know, we got to be going back to school. Like, I could say, what's that movie? Dirty Dancing. Because that's kind of like at the very end of the summer, but that's not a back to school movie. That's a summer movie. That's an end of summer type of movie, which I think is a different genre.
I agree.
So
completely.
There's a lot of good choices, but Super Friends, here's the thing. We want to hear from you. What is your favorite back to school movie? Summer's closing out. It's time to get back to school. Are you a Dazed and Confused kind of guy? Are you a, you know, Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Are you an Animal House? Are you a Grease? Like, what's a movie that you find to be like your favorite back to school? And you can be as lenient or as strict with the interpretation of it as possible, because obviously Matt and I both picked movies like Mr. Holland's Opus and School of Rock, where this is about people going back to school to take a job as a teacher, and then also students coming back and starting a new school year. So be as open and free with it as you want, and we will read your answers next week. So, that being said, Matt, so much fun to do this with you once again.
Always.
Look forward to next week and every week thereafter. Super friends, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.